I don't choose historical parts. I much prefer to have a modern story, very dramatic, and I'm really looking forward for one.
I think she was a good actress. You can't play stupid unless you're very intelligent. You know?
She was the woman who turned a fountain into legend, the blonde goddess who made the world stop and stare. But behind that unforgettable image of beauty and confidence was a life filled with loneliness, scandal, and heartbreak. Anita Ekberg was not just the symbol of Italian cinema. She was its most tragic secret. She had it all: fame, fortune, and men who adored her. Yet, in the end, she lost everything. From her rise as a small-town Swedish girl to her final years spent alone and forgotten, this is the shocking, untold story of the woman who lived and died in the shadow of her own fame. Anita Ekberg's story began far from the glitter of Rome and Hollywood. Born in Malmö, Sweden in 1931, she was one of 8 children raised in a modest home where dreams of stardom felt like fairy tales from another world. Her beauty stood out early. Tall, striking, with an effortless magnetism that seemed to pull every eye in the room. By her late teens, her mother pushed her to enter beauty pageants, hoping it might lead to something bigger. Anita did not take it too seriously, but fate had other plans. She won Miss Sweden in 1950 and found herself competing in the Miss Universe pageant in the United States, representing a country most Americans could not even point to on a map. Though she did not win the crown, she won something far more valuable: attention. Hollywood producers noticed her instantly. She had that rare mix of innocence and danger, of grace and chaos that could not be taught. Universal Studios offered her a contract, promising her a shot at the movies. When Anita arrived in Hollywood, she did not fit the mold of the typical starlet. While others took their diction and dance lessons, she skipped classes to ride horses through the studio backlots. She was not trying to be perfect. She was trying to be free. But Hollywood does not reward freedom. Universal quickly grew tired of her defiance and dropped her within months. Still, Anita did not fade. Her charisma was too strong to ignore. She started landing small roles in adventure and comedy films, background parts that barely showed her face but kept her name alive. Her real talent was not acting, it was presence. Cameras adored her, even when directors did not know what to do with her. Anita's beauty became her weapon and her curse. Gossip columns called her the Ice Queen from Sweden, while photographers followed her everywhere, desperate for the next sensational shot. She began attending glamorous Hollywood parties, brushing shoulders with stars like Frank Sinatra and Errol Flynn, where whispers about her fiery personality spread almost as fast as her fame. Everyone knew Anita Ekberg was different. She was not playing by the rules of the system, she was rewriting them. But Hollywood, with all its glitter and promises, was never a place that forgave rebellion. Hollywood in the 1950s was a world of smoke, secrets, and whispers. Every smile on camera hid a private storm behind the scenes. And for Anita Ekberg, that storm came in the form of one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Tyrone Power. He was the definition of charm, handsome, married, and adored around the world. When Anita met him during the filming of The Mississippi Gambler, the chemistry was undeniable. To her, he was not just another actor. He was the man who treated her like she was not just a pretty face. To him, she was wild, refreshing, and dangerously unpredictable. It was a match that Hollywood could not look away from, and neither could the tabloids. Rumors spread like wildfire. Reporters claimed the two were inseparable, spotted at late-night dinners and quiet getaways. Some even said she visited him on set while his wife was still around, ignoring the scandal it caused. Whether it was love or infatuation, no one could tell. But Anita did not care. She was not trying to play the Hollywood sweetheart. She was living her life on her own terms. For Power, though, the affair was a ticking time bomb. It strained his marriage and fractured his public image. And when he passed away suddenly in 1958, just a few years later, Anita was devastated. She rarely spoke about him after that, but friends said she never truly recovered from the heartbreak. This was the moment Anita realized what Hollywood really was, a machine that chews up passion and spits out headlines. Her romance had turned into a scandal, and her rising stardom became defined by gossip rather than her talent. Rather than running from the chaos, Anita leaned into it. She became the woman who did not care what people thought. That fierce independence, that almost reckless defiance, would soon catch the attention of a filmmaker halfway across the world. A man who would turn her from a scandalous blonde into an immortal symbol of cinema. When Federico Fellini first met Anita Ekberg, he saw more than a beautiful actress. He saw a symbol. Rome in the late 1950s was alive with art, music, and scandal, and Fellini wanted to capture it all in a single film. That film became La Dolce Vita, and Anita became its heartbeat. Her role as Sylvia, the enchanting movie star who wades into Rome's Trevi Fountain in a strapless black gown, would make cinematic history. The image of her laughing under the flowing water beside Marcello Mastroianni became one of the most iconic moments ever captured on film. That scene did not just define her. It defined an era. Audiences around the world were mesmerized. She was not acting, she was being. Anita's sensuality, her confidence, her unapologetic freedom. It was everything 1960s cinema was about to become. But the price of that immortality was heavy. Overnight, Anita was no longer seen as a woman or even an actress. She was a fantasy, a symbol of desire. Fellini adored her charisma but admitted she was bigger than life, uncontrollable, almost too real for the screen. That power made producers nervous and men obsessed. Everyone wanted to capture a piece of her, but few ever saw the loneliness beneath the surface. Anita later admitted she had not realized the impact that single fountain scene would have on her life. "I did not know it would follow me forever," she said years later, but it did. After La Dolce Vita, the offers poured in, but they all wanted the same thing. Anita as the glamorous blonde bombshell. The roles lacked depth, and she knew it, yet she played along, using her fame to travel, to explore, to live the wild life others only dreamed about. Rome had adopted her. She became one of its living myths, walking through the streets like a goddess among mortals. But every legend eventually faces a turning point, and Anita's came when she realized that being worshipped was not the same as being understood. The same fountain that made her eternal had also trapped her in time. If Hollywood had crowned Anita Ekberg a goddess, the press treated her like prey. Every appearance, every interview, every move became headline material. And Anita, bold and fiery, did not shy away from the chaos. She danced in it. One of her first major scandals exploded in London, when her dress reportedly unzipped itself in a crowded foyer during a premiere. Whether it was a genuine mishap or a publicity stunt, no one ever knew, but it worked. The photo made front pages around the world, branding her as the daring blonde who did not care what people thought. From that moment, Anita stopped being an actress to the tabloids. She became a sensation. Her relationship with photographers turned into a war. Paparazzi followed her everywhere, and she was not one to take it quietly. Stories circulated that she once fired arrows at them from her balcony when they invaded her property. Another rumor claimed she chased them down the streets of Rome with a bow in hand, shouting in Italian. Whether true or exaggerated, these tales added to her legend. Anita loved shocking people. When asked in interviews about her image, she said she enjoyed the attention but hated the lies. "They want me to be wild," she once said, "so I give them wild." Beneath the defiance, though, was frustration. She wanted to be recognized for her work, not just her looks, but the industry only wanted the fantasy, not the woman. Offers came and went, some serious, most shallow. She starred in a string of European films, often playing the glamorous temptress, the same role again and again, but Anita's sharp tongue and refusal to play nice kept her in the headlines. Producers called her difficult. Journalists called her volatile. She called herself honest. To her, it was not rebellion, it was survival. And while most stars tried to protect their image, Anita burned hers down and rebuilt it, again and again. By the mid-60s, her confidence had hardened into armor. She was adored by fans but misunderstood by almost everyone around her. Fame had turned her into an untouchable figure, both admired and feared. Yet behind the laughter and champagne, her personal life was unraveling. The spotlight that once made her shine was starting to burn. For all her fame and fiery confidence, Anita Ekberg's love life was marked by heartbreak, betrayal, and obsession. Her first marriage to British actor Anthony Steele in 1956 seemed like a fairy tale at first, a glamorous Hollywood beauty and a leading man from London's golden age. But beneath the surface, it was chaos. Steele struggled with his fading career and heavy drinking, while Anita's growing fame only made things worse. The press mocked their fights, calling them the beauty and the broken star. Some say Steele could not handle being overshadowed by her success. Others believe Anita's temper and independence drove him away. Whatever the truth, their marriage crumbled within 3 years, leaving Anita disillusioned and angry. When it ended, she did not cry in silence. She threw herself into her work and her next adventure. In 1963, she married actor Rick Van Nutter, best known for playing Felix Leiter in Thunderball. For a while, it looked like she had found peace. They moved to Italy, where Anita had become a national treasure after La Dolce Vita. But like her first marriage, this one soon fell apart. Rumors of infidelity, jealousy, and money troubles haunted them. When it ended in the mid-70s, Anita swore off marriage entirely. Yet despite her bold declarations of independence, she was never truly free from love's shadow. The most mysterious chapter of her romantic life was her connection to Gianni Agnelli, the powerful Fiat industrialist and one of Italy's richest men. It has been said that theirs was not just an affair, it was an obsession. Agnelli was married, sophisticated, and unreachable, but Anita had a way of bending rules that others never dared to touch. Their relationship, hidden behind closed doors, became the subject of endless gossip in Italian high society. Some insiders claimed Agnelli adored her but would never leave his wife. Others said Anita's fiery nature frightened him. She never confirmed the affair publicly, only once hinting that love can be a prison even for those who think they are free. In her later years, she admitted that she had been in love many times but never truly loved back the way she wanted. Her romances burned bright and ended badly, each leaving her a little more guarded, a little more alone. Yet Anita refused to be pitied. When a reporter once asked if she regretted never having children, she replied, "I have my memories. They are enough." But the truth was more complicated. The woman who embodied passion on screen spent her final decades longing for a kind of love the world never gave her. As the years passed, the world around Anita Ekberg changed, but she refused to change with it. The Hollywood that once worshipped her had moved on to younger stars, new faces, and new scandals. By the 1980s, the roles had dried up. The woman who once lit up the silver screen found herself alone in a quiet villa outside Rome, surrounded by memories of the life she had built and lost. She never stopped being Anita Ekberg, the legend, the bombshell, the untamed spirit, but the applause was gone. What remained was silent. Reporters who tracked her down in those later years described a grand but fading figure, proud yet visibly tired of being remembered only for a single scene in a fountain decades earlier. Tragedy followed her like a shadow. Her beloved Great Dane knocked her down one evening, shattering her hip and leaving her unable to walk properly again. The once glamorous star spent her final years in a wheelchair, her independence slipping away. Then came the break-ins. Thieves who ransacked her home, stole her jewelry, and even set part of her villa on fire. Worse still, she found herself struggling financially. Despite a lifetime of fame, she had little to show for it. In 2011, it was revealed that Anita had reached out to the Fellini Foundation for help, saying she had no money and nowhere to go. To her fans, the news was heartbreaking. How could the woman who once represented beauty and power end up destitute? But Anita was not ashamed. She told a reporter, "I am not poor. I am just not rich anymore." It was her way of holding on to dignity, even as the world moved on without her. Still, she never lost her spark. Friends said she remained sharp-witted and brutally honest until the end, refusing to show self-pity. She looked back at her life with a mix of humor and defiance. "I have lived," she said in one of her final interviews. "That is more than most can say." Anita Ekberg passed away in January 2015 at the age of 83, alone in a nursing home outside Rome. There was no grand funeral, no crowd of celebrities, just a quiet farewell to a woman who once stopped time itself. Yet, even in death, her legend lived on. Because for all her struggles, Anita Ekberg never belonged to the ordinary world. She was too wild, too radiant, too unforgettable. And though time tried to erase her, it never could. Anita Ekberg's legacy is not just carved into cinema, it is soaked into the very mythology of fame itself. That moment in the Trevi Fountain was not just a scene, it was a spell. It captured the feeling of freedom, beauty, and danger that defined an entire generation. Decades later, tourists still wade into that fountain pretending to be Anita, recreating the image of a woman who lived like a dream and burned like a star. Yet for all her glamour, what truly made Anita unforgettable was her defiance. She never apologized for being bold, for loving loudly, for aging on her own terms. In an industry built on pretending, she was one of the few who stayed real, flawed, outspoken, and untamed. Modern audiences often see her as a symbol of classic beauty, but her story runs deeper than elegance. Anita represented the price of being extraordinary in a world that punishes women for it. She was adored for her body but dismissed for her mind, celebrated for her fame but forgotten when she no longer fit the image. And still, she never begged for acceptance. When asked once if she would change anything about her life, she laughed and said, "Not even the mistakes. They were mine." That attitude, fierce, unapologetic, and deeply human, is what separates legends from footnotes. Today, film historians remember her as the woman who redefined sensuality on screen, while feminists point to her as one of the earliest actresses who refused to be controlled by studios or men. Even her scandals, once used against her, have become part of her power. Anita Ekberg did not play by Hollywood's rules. She exposed them, and in doing so, she showed the world that beauty without freedom is just another cage. Her story is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a reminder that fame can illuminate and destroy in equal measure. But when we see that fountain, when we think of that radiant smile and the sound of water echoing through the streets of Rome, we remember her the way she wanted to be remembered, not as a victim, but as a force of nature. Anita Ekberg lived as though the world was her stage, and even when the curtain fell, her legend refused to fade. Because some stars do not disappear. They just drift higher, out of reach, shining forever in the memories of those who still believe in the magic of the movies. Anita Ekberg's story reminds us that behind every picture-perfect star lies a life filled with contradictions, beauty and pain, fame and loneliness, power and loss. She lived on her own terms, loved recklessly, and refused to let anyone define her. In the end, she was not just the woman in the fountain. She was the spirit of an era that believed in dreams too bright to last. Her laughter still echoes through the streets of Rome, and her defiance still inspires those who dare to live unapologetically. Anita did not fade into obscurity. She became timeless. And maybe that is her real legacy, that even when the lights go out, some stars never stop shining. If you enjoyed this story and want more untold Hollywood legends like Anita Ekberg's, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video with someone who loves classic cinema. Because here, every story from the silver screen finds its voice again, one legend at a time.